When you go into a cut, should you also change your workout? The answer will surprise you. Watch this.
Our next caller is Nolan from Minnesota.
Nolan, what's happening? How can we help you?
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate being on your show.
You got it.
Before we got started, too, I wanted to just say that, I listened to your show and a lot of the content that you put out about just your lives and being fathers, and even to just fitness and, friends of yours like Dr. John Deloney. I love that content, and I think it's really, really good for people like me as we try to find good, male role models. So thank you.
That's nice,
Awesome.
man.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Nolan.
that.
Nice compliment, man.
So essentially, my question is, I have been working out for about 1.5 years, and last year in the springtime, I started to work out with a trainer. And I worked out with that trainer until about December, and I actually started to use a MAPS program since December. I'm on the end of anabolic phase 3, which I've really liked. My question is about my time with my trainer. So when I worked with them, we only changed my training block 3 different times, and I worked with them for about 8 months. So we did a 6-week block, and then we did another 6-week block, and then I went into a cut. And I was in that cut for about 4 or 5 months. And what they said is during the cut, we don't want to change anything with your training. And they were saying that the problem is that if you make changes, you could cause additional muscle tissue damage, and essentially you'll maybe lose more muscle during your cut than you mean to. Basically what I'm wondering, is there validity behind that? If I do a cut again, should I be careful about changing my programming, or should I stay with how MAPS is structured, where I'm going to have change ups more often?
The opposite is true.
Well, so Nolan, let me ask you this first. What did you get stronger? Did you see body composition changes? How did you feel during this period working with the trainer?
Sure. So when I initially started working with them, I got significantly stronger. I was also going though from I was in a home gym, and then I started working out in a big box gym when I started working with the trainer, and I saw crazy big improvements, which I did like. Well, on my cut, I did stagnate, which over the course of those months, I didn't really get any stronger. I actually got a little bit weaker. When you're cutting for about 4 months, I probably lost about 15 pounds. So, I'm not surprised.
But you saw no strength decreases?
No,
yes, correct.
A little bit.
No, okay, so
just a little bit, not major. It wasn't major, but a little bit.
But a 15-pound loss. All right, so look, there's 2 schools of thought with this, okay? And there's validity in both, in my opinion. One of them is let's control as many variables as possible, and then let's change the diet so that all the other variables stay exactly the same, and we know exactly what the diet is doing for the person. Okay, as far as excessive muscle damage, stuff like that, maybe, but really the validity has more to do with we're going to make this change, let's keep everything else the same, and then change accordingly if we need to. The second school of thought says we're going to go into a cut. One of the best ways to send a louder muscle building signal is to switch up the workout, right? That novelty effect tends to do that. Now, the challenge with that, and here's why a lot of trainers don't go with the second school of thought. The challenge with that is knowing how to control the volume and the intensity appropriately, because oftentimes when you change, you increase the volume, you increase the intensity, and then you also go on a cut. And now it's okay, am I too much of a cut? What's going on? Why isn't my body responding? Why am I getting weaker? Whatever. Whereas if you control the variables, we can very easily see, okay, the same exercise we've been doing for the last 5 weeks. Now we're seeing a slight decrease. Maybe the cut is too high or whatever, right? So they're both good. They're both okay. Later in my career, I would switch the workout up with the cut. But I also knew, just through experience, where we would go. And I would always typically go with lower volume into the cut to kind of manage the potential muscle loss. But without looking into getting real clear and exactly what happened with workouts, it would be hard for me to say if it was a right or wrong thing. I will say this: losing 15 pounds and seeing a little bit of a strength loss is not bad.
No,
that's not bad at all. You did pretty damn well.
This isn't a right or wrong per se situation. It's not I said to you the opposite is true, but by that I don't mean that what he's saying is wrong either. It's not that like you can't do what you did, because you obviously did that and you actually sound like you got pretty good results. So it's not a, this is the wrong way, this is the right way. I've done both with clients for a very long time, and I've just had way more success by changing the adaptation up. And one of the ways that I love to show, and part of this too, which on our show, we're always talking about not just the science behind it, but also the psychological piece that comes with it.
Bingo.
One of the most challenging parts about getting in a cut is losing strength, because it's inevitable, or plateauing, or just feeling weak. One of my favorite ways to show you strength gains in a cut is to introduce new movements. For example, if you've never done a barbell hack squat, right? It's a very unique exercise. So I just threw something out there that maybe you've never done before. And you and I was training you, and we put you on a cut, and I introduced that movement to you. The first day we did it, it's going to be difficult. You're going to be not very good at it. But I guarantee the very next day we do it again, you're going to be a little bit stronger.
Even though you're in a cut.
Even though you're in a cut. And then the very next time you do it again, you're going to be a little bit stronger. And so you get to see these strength gains in the gym while we're depleted and we're cutting, and you should be probably losing some strength. And so the psychological benefits of that is one of the most positive things that I've seen from that. And then I also think there's some value of you're incorporating muscles that you really didn't train in other planes or other exercises that you were currently doing. And so we are building some muscle too. So there's value of potentially building muscle in that cut, the psychological benefits of seeing yourself get stronger in the gym in something while you're in a cut, which is really difficult to do. And so I have moved away from what Sal was alluding to, which when I was a new trainer,
you controlled everything.
I wanted to control every variable, and then if I tested it with a client, that way I could tell them, oh, it's because we're cutting too much, or we're not cutting enough, because I didn't change any of these other variables. Where now I've been doing this long enough that I know if I cut somebody by this many calories, I know what's going to probably happen. Then I also know if I change these variables in the workout routine, I also know what the benefits of that psychologically will be with them. And so I have forever moved in that direction. And that's how I train myself. Like if I am changing from a bulk, and it goes for the same in a bulk too. If I go to bulk or cut, anytime I transition diet, I also switch programming up. It's like
a mental shift.
Yeah.
Look, this cannot be overstated. You've been doing this for a while now, Nolan. So this is good advice for you. When you're considering all the factors with diet and exercise and lifestyle, at the top is going to be the psychological aspect, the mental aspect, because that affects everything else. So I don't care what the data says. I don't care what the numbers say. I don't care what the whatever. So the first option would be how a scientist would approach this. What a scientist does is they change one variable and try to keep everything else the same. But you're not a lab rat that we can control perfectly, where how you feel doesn't matter. You're going to do what I tell you to do. The psychological aspect is massive. It can't be overstated. So that's why that's one of the main reasons why I switched to the second approach. Even with myself, Adam said he does this with himself. I do it with myself, and I know what's going to happen. I know it's going to mess with my head, but I still do it. So I still change it in a way where it'll help me psychologically, because I know what's going to happen, and I can anticipate it's going to happen. So it can't be overstated.
I saw in your question too. You've never run a MAPS program yet?
No, he did.
So yeah, and I kind of changed how I asked my question, because when I emailed this in, I had never run a MAPS program. And actually around December, so around the holiday time, I actually let my trainer go, and I actually switched to running a MAPS program.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So part of my original question was asking, like, hey, should I stick with my virtual trainer? Who this is somebody who they worked at the gym I worked at, but like I wasn't seeing them in person. I was doing like a once a week virtual check-in with them. Sure. I could send them videos of me doing the exercises, and they would critique them. They had a really nice app that they had made for their program. So that part was good. I felt they were a little pushy with doing a meal program with me. That kind of became like the focus of like every check-in for the last 3 months, which I guess I wasn't a cut. So that makes sense. And one of my questions was, hey, should I stick with this trainer, or should I switch to a MAPS program?
Well, yeah, definitely. Obviously, I'm going to tell you to switch to the MAPS program. I'm also going to tell you this. I'm going to have Doug put you in the forum, and you'll get that.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
One of the ways that people use the forum the most is exactly what you just said, is they will video themselves doing movements, and then within 5 minutes, you'll get a bunch of other coaches, trainers, and ourselves.
I'm going to get a lot of flack for saying this, okay? But a virtual trainer or coach, most of their value is going to be with diet. Mm-hmm. When it comes to training, in person is what you want. An in-person trainer who's good. I don't have a MAPS program that can compete with a good in-person trainer for exercise, but a virtual trainer with workouts, it's better than nothing for sure. but it's not the value of them virtually is mostly going to be diet. It's not going to be the workout stuff.
I mean, the idea of MAPS programs was to compete with the virtual type coaching and
Right.
training. It was not to compete with in-person training. That you've only been listening for a year, but we've been saying that since we've started this, that
Yeah.
a really good one of us in person could never compete with the virtual version of us. Just can't, because that's real time. I can ask you how you slept last night, how you're feeling right now. I can see the way your body's moving, and I can make
You can't do that virtually.
on the fly adjustments based off of what I see real time. And just no virtual coach can do that. None of us can. It's just unless they're following you around with a camera and you're literally
Even
posting.
then, there's something missing.
Yeah, it's just not the same as having that in person. So an in-person good coach is better than the best MAPS program, but I guarantee that MAPS program with the forum access that I'm giving you
Yeah,
right
you'll be
now
great.
will outcompete anybody that's doing anything virtually for you.
Yeah, that would be huge. I mean, the switch over to Maps has been actually really, really great for me. The only thing that I was missing was being able to do like a quick on-the-spot check-in of, is this movement good?
Yeah.
Which now I've been working out for a year and a half. I'm kind of getting past that point of like needing to check every single exercise.
You post the video of them in the forum.
Yep.
You'll get lots of feedback. There's lots of trainers and coaches.
That's
in there.
how most people use it actually right
Yep.
now, is to do form
Totally.
check.
That's awesome. Well,
Yep.
thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
You got it, man.
All right, no,
Thanks
we'll
for calling in.
see you in the forum.
Yep. Have a good one.
You got it. You know, I got to make this point again. Everybody wants to do the thing that the data shows produces the 5% more, whatever. It's the psychological piece that you have to consider the most. The thing that you said, Adam, is the most important thing that we said. I don't care if they're equal. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
If I can make the client feel better, then that's going to work better. It's just the
gonna
bottom line.
stick.
It's 100% bottom line. And what you were talking about, the strength gains are in the cut because it's a new exercise. Those are CNS adaptations. They also matter. Will you build more muscle? Probably. But even if you don't, going into your workouts on a cut and seeing improvements in your strength or reps, like, is that going to make this more sustainable?
Oh,
You better damn believe it.
This is the difference of, I mean, and I feel like this generation we've created even more of these trainers, right? That they, you know, and I'm not going to name drop the trainers that are famous on YouTube, and that all they do is break down studies, and they coach virtually from studies, and it's like, that's better than a guy who doesn't know anything, I guess.
Sure.
But it's definitely not better than somebody who's trained
not a guy.
hundreds or thousands of people in their lifetime and have already put all the studies to test and compared them to other things too, like the psychological piece. And your point, what I have found is that I don't care how good the study is, if I notice that it messes with my client psychologically, that makes a bigger difference on our total results. I don't care what the studies say.
That's right. Yeah.
So that always gets factored. And then when you talk about something like this, where it's kind of a splitting hair difference, like, yeah, we could train this way where we don't change any variables in just the diet, or we can switch it up. There's not even, like, I guarantee if we took 2 test groups that did the difference there, you would see minimal to not much change. But I guarantee if we dove into the psychology,
Yeah, which one do you like? Which one did you enjoy?
Yes.
Which one do I do more?
right,
100%.
then you would notice a difference.